No, it's not.
Yeah, get all your coughs out.
I almost guarantee there'll be a cough. I'll try to mute.
No, there's no mute here.
Okay, well.
No. All right, everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Rathole podcast edition. I am your host, Zack, Eichten, commissioner of the Pong Stars Fantasy Football League. Here today with me is my first co-host, John Stevens.
Yes, thank you. Team owner of the Rock Flopstas after last season. A lot to think about, and just happy that we're back with football season right around the corner.
So tell me, John, is the Rock Flopstas the official name coming into the season, or is it going back to your roots? What's the plans here?
Yet to be decided. I think I'm going to want to see some of my guys perform in the preseason before they're given back that Rock Plopstas name that they were so proud of. But they just disappointed me in the playoffs, and I don't know if we're ready to give them back the Rock Plopstas title yet. So for now, we're saying the Rock Flopstas.
All right, that's great to know. I know I had a rebrand coming into my last year championship run. We were the underachievers. We came back in full force. We were the gluten freaks, then the gluten frauds for a bit because, quite frankly, they were very fraudulent last year and maintained that was the truth, but ended up winning as the gluten freaks, which obviously it's all about the name. It's not about the players.
Freaks with 2 E's and an A.
Yes. The guy at the trophy shop was very confused when I was explaining it. I'm like, no, it's like free, like gluten free, but then you had AKS, and he's like, do you mean just like FREAK? And no, I don't.
It took me several weeks to realize that there were 2 E's in your team's name.
It's part of the bit, man.
That being said, though, you have to keep the gluten freaks. It's like an obligation.
Yeah, I mean, I have the whole jersey. So yeah, I have to at this point.
I think at one time we did discuss potentially having naming rights only staying with the champion of the league, which I still think is kind of a cool idea. Like only the champ gets to keep their name.
But we have a lot of really great names in the league. We got the Google team names.
It is true.
The Spring Chickens, the Rock Plopsas whenever that name inevitably returns. There's a few other good names out there. The Gruesome Grinders, of course. We have to have the Gruesome Grinders. I would be sad to
see the Gruesome Grinders go.
Pelicans on a bench. Again, that is Pelicans on a bench. The Dog Sniffers. And the
Dog Sniffers, some great moments in the Pick'em last year.
Yeah.
Sniffing away. The narrowly moments. I think Sam might need to incorporate narrowly into his team name this year.
The narrowly Googled team names.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have to workshop that, but it seems like something that needs to happen.
Yeah, we got a few names in here that could use some workshopping, but I think those teams know who they are.
Yeah, there's definitely some lazy names out there.
Yeah, but anyways, folks, we're just super excited to be here. For our very first podcast edition of the Rathole. It's going to be like this. The rest of the season, quite frankly, editing the videos was time consuming for 8 viewers. So I'm going to go ahead and
Brennan.
Yeah, Brennan. Going to go ahead and switch this over to a podcast this year. Hopefully incorporate some more co-hosts as we move forward. And it's going to be a great season of the Rathole. I'm excited to be here. So just to start us off here, obviously we have some NFL news to go over. Cue the jingle. I don't know what that is yet.
I like draft jingle.
I like that actually.
Do that.
I'm just gonna clip that and
my voice doing it. Oh boy. All right. Fair enough.
But first, to start off with some NFL news. John, this is why I'm glad you're here. Obviously, there's a lot of Packer news going on in the NFL world right now. Some cryptic social media posts from the MVP, Aaron Rodgers, as well as some of his teammates. Devontae Adams, Robert Tonyan, and of course reports that even Zadarius Smith, the linebacker, is not thrilled.
Looking for a real estate agent,
yes.
I hear. Yeah.
So any comments on that? What are your thoughts on the current situation?
Well, for most of the off season, it really has been a roller coaster, because at the beginning, like I think 90% of Packers fans, not taking it seriously really at all. It definitely seems like in the last couple of years, the media has definitely tried to portray the situation in Green Bay as worse than it was, especially with Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers' relationship. We'll famously remember that Brennan thought Matt LaFleur should get fired at one point last season, or maybe it was even in his first season, and they made it to back-to-back NFC championships. So, he did decide to not go for it on fourth down and instead kick a field goal. So maybe his in the moment decision making is not good. But regardless, started the off season really not believing any of it. Then started to get realistic, starting to believe it again. Like, oh man, he might actually be gone, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And then started, over the last month or so, started to kind of bring it back to, okay, you know what? Nothing's really happening. It's a lot of talk, but it does seem like at the end of the day, he's going to end up reporting. Everything will be fine. And then last week happened, and it's really just not looking good. As of the latest update, it now seems that him and Devontae Adams will both be in Green Bay for one more season, but that's it, based on their reference to The Last Dance. But I don't know. At this point, I'm just happy we got one more season, hopefully, and then I guess it's over. And so I hope that they can bring home a championship next season or this season. But yeah, it's not looking great. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
I think you said it, and I will say, as a Vikings fan, obviously, I would love if Aaron Rodgers was on not an NFC North team, unless it was the Vikings. But just retiring, I think that'd be a huge loss to the league. Watch one of the greatest players of all time have to go out like this. If this is truly a retirement moment for him, I think that'd be really disappointing.
I will say, I don't think Aaron Rodgers will find the success on other teams in the same way that Brett Favre did on the Vikings. Just in my opinion, I just don't see that happening. I could see him going to like the Raiders or going to the Broncos. I don't think the Tom Brady situation is going to happen where he's going to be winning a Super Bowl or even in a Super Bowl. I think for his chances to win another Super Bowl, I really do think his best chance is in Green Bay. They have all the pieces. They've been in back-to-back NFC championships. Hopefully he opens his eyes and sees that. But at the moment, he just can't seem to get over these moves that they've made and management disrespecting him. And it's not about the money, but he wants $90 million over 2 years. So I don't know. I guess we'll see when or if he reports, and we'll learn more every week.
Yeah. Also, this past week, the NFL came out with some new guidance around coronavirus, and basically saying that any team that is unable to reschedule a game if they have a COVID outbreak will get a forfeit and a loss for playoff standings and seeding. That was met with some derision from a few bonehead players across the league, including DeAndre Hopkins, aka Dean, who essentially tweeted out in a tweet that's since been deleted
within 5 minutes
that he doesn't want to partake in the vaccine. Dean, it's just one of the many players though being selfish around the league. You have your Cole Beasleys and others, but DeAndre is maybe the only one that's good enough to be able to tweet something like that. But
yeah, it really is shocking to me that players can't seem to understand that against everything else, they just need to do it for their teammates. And football especially, which is such a team sport, everybody on the team matters and contributes. The fact that some of these guys can't just bring themselves to be like, okay, you know what? I don't agree with it. Like, I think that I should have a choice, whatever. But I want to win. I want to win a championship. And at the end of the day, me not being vaccinated is potentially going to have a direct impact on my team being able to get to the playoffs, make a playoff run. So I don't know. You see guys sacrifice so much to get to the NFL. And even once they're in the NFL, they sacrifice so much of their family life and they're on the road and they beat their bodies up, for this desire to win a championship that they've had ever since they were a kid. But this one seemingly small thing that they just can't get over is potentially going to lead to a couple of teams missing out on the playoffs. Yeah. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how their relationship shakes out with their teammates, because I know like back when the coronavirus started, the whole Rudy Gobert thing with the Utah Jazz, he was the first like NBA player to get it. Mm-hmm. And he did the whole thing where he touched the mics and stuff. And that had some like really long lasting impacts on his teammates' like view of him. And I think they were able to get over it eventually. But I know already there's like arguments going on Twitter between teammates about it. And it's like, you going into preseason and going into training camp, you just want to avoid all those kinds of distractions. And it just seems like guys just can't get over it. So
yeah, it's really sad, and it's honestly just selfish at this point. It's just like if you're gonna play in this league, you got to keep yourself and your teammates safe. So hopefully they figure it out. But wanted to go over some random player updates just to keep everybody appraised of the situation as we approach draft day pretty soon here, where we have. So some updates that may have slipped past folks. So the first one, of course, is Will Fuller to the Dolphins, which I didn't even know that happened, to be honest, until we did some digging around right before we started recording here. But it seems like the Dolphins are really trying to give their young quarterback and running back some veteran power there that it would be very welcome in that system.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it is indeed Tua time, if Will Fuller can, help bring Tua time back, because there were definitely moments down the stretch of last season where it looked like Tua time was over.
It was gone. They missed it.
It'll be interesting to see if having, a weapon like Will Fuller can help Tua, take that next step and become a solidified franchise quarterback. But yeah, we'll see.
What's really interesting actually about Will Fuller is so in the 2020 fantasy season, Will Fuller was only one of 4 wide receivers that had over 2 points per target in 0.5 PPR formats. Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen, Tyreek Hill, and Will Fuller, over 2 points per target, the only 4.
That's the thing about Will Fuller. Anytime that he is actually on the football field playing, he is like unbelievable. Yeah, it's just with his issues with injury, suspensions, he's not on the field a lot. Kind of like a Josh Gordon, similar type of story. Yeah. But hopefully he'll be on the football field more this season than not, and seems like he should be able to contribute.
See what we'll get. Yeah. Another sort of big trade that I think it happened earlier, so people have maybe forgot about it here, is Matt Stafford and Jared Goff trade between the Rams and the Lions here. Got any opening thoughts for us?
I think this is going to be a great trade from the Rams. I think that, I did in this offseason already pick up Matthew Stafford and put him on my bench. I think just to have him there to think about what it would be like to have him on my team this year. Because I really do think Matthew Stafford, there's been a debate for a long time about whether or not Matthew Stafford in Detroit in their lack of success was on Stafford or if it was on Detroit. I am very much so in the camp of it's Detroit's fault.
Oh, for sure.
It's Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. He puts up unbelievable stats with basically no one on his team, or maybe one weapon a year. So it'll be, going over to the Rams with their coaching staff and the weapons that they have around there. I think he's going to have a great fantasy season. I think it's really going to help the Rams out as well, because Jared Goff just stinks, basically. So I really like the trade for the Rams a lot.
Yeah, and I, as a Vikings fan and as a Packers fan, I also love the trade. Bring Jared Goff over here. The guy's no good. Discount Ryan Gosling.
I honestly didn't even think about that, but yeah Jared Goff is going to get absolutely harassed in the NFC North this year, I think.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited for that. This one's more for Thomas specifically. Thomas, I hope you're listening to this. But the LA Chargers got Jared Cook to go with Justin Herbert. So that's another tight end to keep on your radar. I know you like to keep at least 6 or 7 on your squad at any time. So Cook might be one of those guys this year.
Yeah, I think Tony might have that one on his radar as well. I know Tony in the past has been a big Hunter Henry guy. Yeah. At least in my mind, I've thought that he was a big Hunter Henry guy. Maybe he isn't, but
yeah, he is. I tried to get Hunter Henry several times, and it was usually just a flat no. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but with Justin Herbert there, any more weapons they can add is going to help out Justin Herbert. Jared Cook's obviously a veteran tight end in the league, so I think it'll help out the Chargers, and it'll maybe help out Tony. We'll see.
Yeah. And then finally, another one. This is also kind of for Thomas, honestly, is James Conner to the Cardinals, where he is listed on the depth chart right now at running back 2 behind Chase Edmond. As a reminder, Kenyon Drake is no longer on the Cardinals team. So just sort of an interesting move there as well to see what they do if they're going to go with that more committee structure again.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that James Conner just can't be a keeper at this point for Thomas.
Yeah.
I would really be thinking he'd be looking to make some moves for a better running back option on his team. But who knows? Maybe he'll roll the dice and see if Connor's able to, flash back to his season where he took over Le'Veon Bell's role and put up some big numbers.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But let's move on over to league news.
Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. Yeah, you can't clip it yet. I mean, I was like, yeah, go ahead and put it in there, Zach.
I was thinking you might do a different one, like a different jingle.
Could do like one of the NFL Sunday ones.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
Dun 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 dun. I don't know. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah, we'll get some jingles in there.
Workshop it.
Yeah, for sure. This is the first episode. We got time. Pilot.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Well, pilot of the podcast. So in league news, we do have our keeper deadline coming up here. It's actually, as we're recording, 1 month from today, which is kind of crazy. August 25th is coming up really quick. So just make sure that you're starting to think about that. We got these 4 weeks here before those have to be set, which means, of course, 6 weeks from now is our draft day, or September 7th, the day after Labor Day, as it is prescribed in the Constitution, so that folks can prepare for that, get as close to that start date as possible. And then, of course, we do have our Pong Stars Boys Weekend coming up on September 10th through the 12th. Rumor has it that we're going to have to make some time to be in the cities area on probably that Friday night, because somebody, Sam Olson, has to do some stand-up comedy for the boys.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, so that's going to have to be part of that. We'll get some better details moving forward on that, but Sam and I had a little chat about timing, and that's probably going to be our best bet to make sure that everybody can participate. So might have to be a Friday night. We're down in the cities, do that, and then maybe hit up the casino on the way back. It'll be a great time.
I don't know how I forgot about that, but I am very, very excited for that. Sam, I think, maybe thought he was going to get away with not having to do it, but it's happening. Thank God it is, because seeing Sam Olson perform a 5-minute stand-up set will probably go down as one of my favorite moments that I've ever lived.
Yeah, I'm also very excited for it. So Thomas, again, I feel like I'm just talking to Thomas through the microphone at this point, but Thomas, if you want to join Sam, we could definitely make that work and get both of you able to do it on the same night.
Oh yeah, but, what did Thomas?
Thomas claimed he was doing a calendar shoot, which that calendar does have to be done by the start of this season. So hopefully he's been working on that, and we'll see what comes of it. But Thomas, you can always switch over to stand up and do it with Sam or two.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right. And that is all we have for league news. So we're going to head on over to the fun fact of the week. This one I do have a jingle for from last year.
All right, you have to do it verbally.
I don't have it up.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't do it.
Sad.
It is sad.
All right.
I think it's like do 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 do.
I don't remember at all. So sure.
Anyways, fun fact of the week. The fun fact of the week is brought to us by our all-time rankings in the PongStars database. But before we get into it, of course, the PongStars database is available on the PongStars website, and I've actually updated the link for it. So the new link for it is now going to take you directly to a OneDrive link where you can view it in real time. So I don't have to upload it to Google Drive every couple days or every couple weeks rather. So it's always going to be up to date as soon as I'm able to put in any new data. You're able to manipulate it a little bit, like view the tables how you want to and whatnot. So take a look. If you have any improvements or any formatting things that you think would be easier to make it usable, let me know. I'd love to hear more about that. But we're going to the rankings, all-time rankings here. We keep track here at PongStar Studios of our largest margin of victory for each team. Josh obviously leads the way with that, with his 113.76 margin of victory. That was when he also scored the highest score of all time when he got 193.16. But we're not here to just talk about Josh.
Who was that against again?
Oh gosh, that was in 2019, wasn't it?
That must have been one of those big Lamar games or something.
That was against Brennan in week 12 of the 2019 season.
Hate to see it, Brennan.
Yeah, week 12. Who did that? Who ran up the score? Lamar Jackson had 36 points. Leonard Fournette had 32. Chris Godwin had 33, and Seattle had a 17-point defensive stand.
Zack Squirts, 21.
Yeah, wow. That was what a great Jonathan Williams. I don't even know who that is. 19.6 points.
Gun to my head, could not tell you what team he plays for. I guess he's a running back, but
that's it. Yeah. Anyways, that was Josh 193. But we're not just here to talk about Josh. The real fun fact of the week here is that 3 of our teams all have their largest margin of victory within 0.7 points of each other. Drew's largest margin of victory, 72.7. Zach's largest margin of victory is 72.2. And Sam's largest margin of victory is 72 on the money. So that is just sort of an interesting fun fact about where sort of that mid-range largest margin of victory is. But here's the one more part of this sort of discussion that I find is to be just really interesting. The person with the lowest margin of victory is probably the last person you'd expect. Noel Tigan.
Oof.
Whose the largest margin of victory is only 55.1 points, despite his pretty clear dominance, especially in that 2019 season.
Maybe he wasn't as dominant as we thought.
Yeah, very interesting. So
winning some tight matchups.
Yeah, 55-point matchups. Yeah, very tight. But yeah, that is where we're at. So let's head on over to our next segment here, which is some trade analysis of 2020. Do we have a little jingle for that?
Trade time. Boom boom.
All right.
That was good.
That was fantastic. So as y'all know, we had 48 trades total last season, including the preseason.
Disappointing to not get to 50, to be honest.
Yeah, I blame Drew for that. He should have gotten more 6th-round picks somehow. If we would have made it, if this was a 12-team league, we would have made it to 50 because Drew would have had to get at least 2 more 6th-round picks.
I think that's our goal for this season. If we don't get at least 50 trades this season, I think as a league we have failed.
I'm actually wondering, do you think, just gun to your head right now, more or less trades this upcoming season?
If I had to guess, I'm going to say less.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like, there were definitely some meme-ish trades last season. But apart from that, just with the situation with COVID and just what seemed like a ridiculous amount of injuries last season, I think people were forced to make a lot more moves to keep their teams afloat and have a chance at the playoffs.
Yeah.
So hopefully with COVID, taking more of a back seat this season, and hopefully players having a full, off season to get rested and get healthy again. And hopefully we won't have as many injuries. So we'll see. But my gut says less.
My gut says less too. You said a lot of meme-ish trades. I will say that the first trade of the 2021 season was Nolan Lucas trading each other 69 fab dollars.
Yeah, I don't think that really. I mean,
it's in here. It's in the sleeper data, so I have to have it on here.
I think they should 69 each other to make that trade be valid.
Also, yeah. Also, Lucas trading Matt Ryan for literally nothing.
Wow, I didn't know literally nothing was a player.
I didn't know how to put literally nothing as picks, or I didn't want it to be like a blank spot. Like, oh, did you forget to input something? No, I didn't actually.
Yeah, we'll see. Old takes exposed. Maybe referencing that trade in the near future if Matt Ryan has a MVP season. Who's to say?
There's no way of knowing.
I mean, they got rid of Julio Jones. Maybe he was the issue. Maybe that'll free Matt Ryan up.
Free Matt Ryan up. Free Calvin Ridley up.
Yeah, Russell Gage.
Free up.
No Todd Gurley either.
Yeah, who's their running back?
Man, Atlanta is just going to be
Mike Davis. It's going to free up Mike Davis.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Matt Ryan MVP season incoming. He finally gets it done. Super Bowl. You heard it here first. I think most people are predicting probably like less than 4 wins for Atlanta, but
you're not.
Here at the Rathole, we are firmly in the Matt Ryan MVP camp.
I mean, there's already talks about Matt Ryan being the league MVP. I mean, did we start those talks? Yes.
Yeah.
But they're talks. They're already about that being a possibility. Rumor mill. But let's hop into some of these 48 trades. We got a few down here that we just want to examine and see who really came out on top in these trades in the 2020 season. So the way that these numbers were calculated, just a little bit about the methodology, if I may. Each one of these trades, I went through the chain of control over each of the players and picks that were included in a trade. So for example, if someone were so John and I had a trade early in August last year, where I traded John Allen Robinson in a 2021 round 2 pick for John's 2021 round 1. So John ended up getting some value out of that pick as well as Allen Robinson. So Allen Robinson scored 211.9 points on the season, and then got some value from that pick as well. Whereas I had this 2021 round 1 that then we went through, and that was included in a trade where I got Julio and Mark Ingram, who didn't play on my team. So Julio then scored 91.8 points. But because Allen Robinson was able to score more than Julio did on my team, 211.9 to 91.8, John got a win. John was in the win column for that trade. Congratulations.
Big win.
That's just an example of the methodology. Some of these were a lot more complex and a lot more circuitous. Yep. And when we get to those ones, I'll do my best to explain them, because there's a lot of offshooting and it'll be a little confusing at times, but we'll try to get through it. But the first one that we want to talk about really here is trade number 5 from last season, which was the James Conner trade from Sam to Thomas, where Sam traded the 2020 round 4 and James Conner to Thomas, and Thomas got Sam's 2020 round 1 and his own 2020 round 3 back. And with this trade, Thomas ended up getting his main running back keeper of last season, as well as he was able to draft sort of a mainstay wide receiver for his lineup. And he was able to get 261.04 points out of this combination. I believe it was Tyler Boyd he drafted with that pick, and he had one throwing completion in there to get that 0.04. But and then what Sam was able to do, though, he was able to get Jonathan Taylor and Will Fuller with those picks that Thomas sent over to him. Will Fuller had a great year while he was playing. Obviously, Sam ended up having the most wide receiver points of any team last year. And Jonathan Taylor ended up being, I think, running back 6 in PPR formats. So Sam ended up getting 284.4 points out of those two. So Sam got a win there. But John, just as we look forward, how do we see this trade impacting the league?
Well, so Sam eked out Thomas there in terms of last season, but in terms of going into 2021 season, it's pretty clear in a way that Sam won the trade about 10 times over. Yeah. Jonathan Taylor, although he is no longer on his team, he was able to use him to acquire Alvin Kamara. It will be interesting to see what Alvin Kamara is able to do, but if we're comparing Alvin Kamara to James Conner going into next season, it is very obvious that Alvin Kamara is about 100 million times better than James Conner, situation-wise and just skill set-wise. So, yeah, Thomas, I understand the need back then to make the trade to get James Conner. I think a lot of people expected more out of him. Obviously, it didn't really work out. Now, going into next season, he's like an RB2 on his own team. So, definitely a win for Sam all around on this one.
Yeah. So I want to talk about another Sam trade. I just mentioned in the previous trade that Sam had the most wide receiver points out of anyone, any team. He was actually only one of 2 teams that broke 600 on the year. He had 666.5 points. And then Tony came in second at 605. So we're going to talk then now about trade number 9, where Sam made the decision to trade Justin Jefferson for a 2021 round 2 from Lucas and Cortland Sutton, who was already on IR and out for the remainder of the season when that trade happened.
Yeah.
So I wrote in here in my notes that technically in this trade, there was not really any winners. Lucas won. Doesn't really feel like it, though, because Lucas ended up trading away Jefferson before he actually only scored 16.1 points on Lucas's team.
Yeah. Well, and Justin Jefferson, we'll talk about it later, but ended up on Tony's team, who you had mentioned there's only one other team to get over 600 points, and it was Tony. And it was in large part due to Justin Jefferson and then Stephon Diggs as well. But yeah, I think, I think both Sam and Lucas, probably looking back on their trades of Justin Jefferson, may have judged the rookie a little too early. Yeah. And I think for a guy that Sam, at the time, it seemed like maybe even reached for a bit in the draft a little early for a rookie wide receiver, the fact that he wasn't able to stick with him for a few more weeks, for a guy that's just adjusting to the NFL, I thought was a little surprising. I think Sam really got blinded by Cortland Sutton and thought, Cortland Sutton going into next season, based on what he had done in the NFL so far, seemed like he was going to be potentially a keeper type of guy. Obviously, he's on the Broncos, Sam's team. So I think that weighed a little heavy in Sam's heart. But yeah, I don't know. I think Sam, he moved on pretty clearly a bit too early from Justin Jefferson, because he absolutely turned it on in the back half or even like the back 3 quarters of the season.
And what's really unfortunate is I do think that on certain teams in our league, Cortland Sutton could, if you squint, could be a keeper if you're really trying to keep a wide receiver and you don't have much. But that's not Sam's case. Sam's got Amari Cooper. He's got Calvin Ridley. He's got T. Higgins.
Yeah. It's not worth the risk for Sam. I mean,
Will Fuller still on that team. Like, the Cortland Sutton is the wide receiver. Oh, and Juju. Cortland Sutton is the wide receiver 6 on this team at best.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton does have the upside to potentially be a good wide receiver this upcoming season, but given Sam's other options, there's just no world in which you could imagine keeping Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
And if he does, it might be a bigger mistake than drafting Philip Lindsay in the first round. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
There's no way it can be a worse mistake. Obviously a bummer for Sammer because, although Justin Jefferson on this team would have a hard time, I think he might still get traded, but he would maybe get some better value than Cortland Sutton for him.
Yeah, I don't know. J. Jeff, I think, is a keeper on every team. Just the fact that he's only going into year 2, just that youth, I think, would edge him out in terms of some of his other potential guys. But I don't know. Yeah, Sam, big wide receiver guy, evidently, and now Alvin Kamara. So it'll be interesting to see how he does next season.
All right, let's move on to the next one here. This one is one of my favorite trades because of the implication.
Yeah, this one might take a little while to explain.
This one is going to be a bit of a this is tough. So trade 11, Noel Heigen, Drew Mahold, where we have Noel trading away Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, his 2021 first round, and his 2021 or 2022 fourth round. Jeez, I'm losing it. 2022 fourth rounder. 2 Drew Mahold, 4 Adam Thielen, Alvin Kamara, J.K. Dobbins. So if we look at how this goes here, so sort of at first for this, honestly at this point, I thought that Drew was tanking. Like Derrick Henry, he was good, but he wasn't as good. He never knew what he was going to be that year. Tyreek Hill, he had been very streaky, boomer bust style player compared to Kamara and Thielen being just very solid. And then J.K. Dobbins,
future guy,
a future rookie, like a potential, steal of a rookie for Kareem Hunt, who was a backup running back on the Browns. RB2.
I think in the moment I had the same reaction. I did like for Drew to get Tyreek Hill because he does have Patty on his squad. But like you'd mentioned at that point in the season, Derrick Henry not performing, one could say that looking at the history of what Derrick Henry's done in the NFL, it was a bad move to move him just because Derrick Henry progressively just gets better and better as the season goes on. But at the time, it did obviously seem like Alvin Kamara, definitely favorable to Derrick Henry. And then, like you already mentioned with the rookies and the backup running backs, it in the moment definitely seemed like Drew was like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah. But unfortunately, just for Noel's team, it just didn't really work out that way. We were able to look at this, and as it came down to it, Noel was able to get 285.8 points worth of value from these players, primarily from Alvin Kamara, but he ended up trading away Adam Thielen, and J.K. Dobbins didn't play a snap in any lineup for Drew or for Noel's team last year.
And I will say, 285 points seems like a lot, but when you hear the number of points Drew got, it's like nothing.
Yeah. The value that Drew was able to get from this trade was 641.4 points. Derrick Henry, monster year. Tyreek Hill, monster year. Like I said earlier, one of only 4 receivers that had more than 2 points per target. Absolutely ridiculous. Kareem Hunt, he was able to trade to me for some good value. And he also was able to trade some picks, the first rounder and the fourth rounder for some stuff. He was able to get Mike Evans and Deontay Johnson, and then the value that he got with the Kareem Hunt trade as well. Kamara did good, not good enough for Noel. And then Thielen got traded for Joe Mixon, who immediately went out for the rest of the season. It just the value that Drew got from this trade is just so lopsided. I almost feel bad.
Yeah, well, at least for last season. I think when you look forward to next season, it maybe perhaps starts to balance out a little bit more because, Noel did move Alvin Kamara this offseason already for Jonathan Taylor, which I go back and forth between liking it and disliking it. I don't know. Jonathan Taylor does seem like he's going to be a very solid back, but Marlon Mack's coming back. They still have Naheem Hines. It'll be interesting to see if he can do what everybody's projecting he's able to do. Joe Mixon, quite possibly the biggest fraud running back in fantasy history. I can't think of another guy who every single season is like, okay, this is a late first rounder, early second rounder, and just ends up basically doing nothing. Again, maybe next year's the season, but I don't know, man. It'll be interesting. Derrick Henry obviously is going to be good next season. Tyreek Hill. I definitely, going into next season, I'm still taking Drew's players, but I do think Noel made some decent moves. Maybe he'll be able to recover a little bit from kind of the disaster that happened with this trade last season.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it pans out. But speaking of that Joe Mixon trade, I would love to get into it. So Noel traded, this is trade 16 for people following along at home.
Got the spreadsheet
up. It is in the Pawn Stars database. And these are highlighted. You can go through and look at these trades if you want to see what we're talking about here. Noel traded Adam Thielen and Giovanni Bernard, as well as his own 2021 second-round pick to Lucas for Joe Mixon, Lucas's 2022 first-rounder, and $10 of free agency money, which that's fake money.
Did you track what that $10?
No, I refuse to do that. I thought
Noel
about
didn't
it.
have that 10 fab. I don't know. He may not have been able to acquire certain players near the end of the season.
It's certainly possible, but
the world may never know.
There's no way of knowing. So just thinking about this trade off the bat, you might think, oh, well, Noel's getting a great running back, quote unquote, according to a lot of people, and a 2022 first round pick. Like, that's a pretty good trade for him. No, immediately gets hurt. Joe Mixon got 26.3 points worth of value before not playing again the rest of the season. Meanwhile, Adam Thielen got 175.64 points for Lucas's team. I think Lucas ended up dropping Giovanni Bernard after this trade, and Noel was able to pick him back up. And so he still had Gio when he was starting but it was ridiculous.
Also, quite possibly one of my favorite things about this trade in just any of the trades last season was the fact that the trade didn't go through until the end of the week. And Lucas was able to get just a monster performance from Joe Mixon on his way out. I think he had like 40 some points. I believe it was one of Lucas's few wins of the season. It was against Noel. Just amazing.
It's a really great story. I will say though, I should be clear. We didn't get all the points from Adam Thielen on Lucas's team. There was some sort of a cascading event that happened here where he was able to trade that pick from Noel. I think back to Noel. Hold on, let me verify. Trade 30. Where are you at? Yeah, back to Noel in this trade, where he was able to get Carson Wentz and three other picks, and Carson Wentz scored 31.74 points for Lucas. I think over 2 games.
Big,
huge. So Lucas technically wins the 2020 season, but we'll see. Adam Thielen's obviously going to be a keeper for Lucas, but we'll see what happens as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just dependent on Joe Mixon. I think Noel is telling himself that Joe Mixon is finally going to do it this season, and I think it's the trap that every single Joe Mixon owner falls into.
Yep.
They keep telling themselves, convincing themselves that Joe Mixon is the real deal. Ooh, they got the new quarterback. They got all the wide receivers. Like, it's finally going to work out for the Bengals and for Joe Mixon. I don't know. I'm calling bullshit. I don't think it happens for like the 4th straight season. I think he's like a middle of the pack running back, which obviously you still need a guy like that on your team. But I don't know. I just don't see it.
Joe Mixon, I got burned on Joe Mixon last year in my other league. So that
I think
was
just about everybody's got burned on Joe Mixon at some point.
No,
It's shocking that anybody's ever willing to take him anymore.
I'm never, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see if, for whatever reason, if he didn't get kept, I'd be interested to see how far he would fall, because he should obviously probably be the number 1 overall pick if he somehow didn't get kept. But I wouldn't take him at number 1 overall.
No, I couldn't.
No way. I'm not taking Joe Mixon.
There's absolutely no way.
Somebody would get an absolute steal at pick 1.6 or something. Just Joe Mixon. But that'll never happen because Noel believes in his boy. So
good luck to Noel on that one. I want to bring it back to trade 21 for another Justin Jefferson trade from Lucas to Tony. Lucas. Oh, buddy. Lucas traded Justin Jefferson and a 2021 round 1 pick, his first rounder, the number 1 overall pick for this upcoming draft, to Tony for a 2021 round 3 and Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, man. Probably the most lopsided trade of the season looking back at it. Yeah. Just with what Justin Jefferson was able to do. And the fact that he somehow got the first overall pick out of it too. One of, I think, Tony's 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, he has 4 this year.
The very first pick. So it'll be interesting to see, what that pick becomes, who ends up getting picked out of that spot. But very, very lopsided. Just tremendously lopsided trade.
I mean, Lucas was able to get 73.84 points as a result. It was part Henderson, part sort of a cascade event where he got some value from the pick in there in a different trade. But Tony getting keeping a first round pick and also getting 148.3 points out of Justin Jefferson is just really quite the event. So horrible trade for Lucas. Tony, actually props to Tony for this past season. I think going into the season, Tony was talking big game about winning. And I think very quickly realized that it was the 2021 season where he was going to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely props to Tony. I mean, I think he was able to tank perfectly. He avoided the punishment. He actually had a sniff at the playoffs for a second, which was really incredible. And it somehow now has 4 first-round picks. I will say, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, incredible pair of wide receiver keepers that he's going to have. I still think his running back game is pretty weak.
Yeah.
Some potential, but, looking at other teams, not great. And then he's got Herbie. So, I mean, some good managing done by Tony last season for sure.
For sure. I will say, though, to Lucas's credit, I don't know if he knew Cam Akers was going to explode or not, but Darrell Henderson isn't actually looking like a bad player to keep at this point. I mean, the first running back on a solid running team,
Absolutely.
And Darrell Henderson actually, when he was in the lead, when he had the ball a lot, he played well and he scored actually quite a number of points. So
if Lucas doesn't keep Darrell Henderson, I'm gonna have to bonk him on the head, because Darrell Henderson is gonna basically take over Kaker's role. Maybe won't get quite the workhorse type of role that Kakers may have had, but yeah, Lucas was maybe playing a little bit of chess with this one. Saw the future.
Big brain moves.
Kind of sus, to be honest.
Yeah. Was Lucas in Los Angeles recently? There's no way of knowing, but we're on to you, bud. We're gonna hop on down to trade 27 here. This is the trade that I had with Drew, and just a little bit of background on this trade. Drew and I had been talking about this sort of set of players, these 4 players, where Austin Eckler and Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, and Kenyon Drake, since probably about week 2. Mere moments after I pressed it, or Brennan pressed accept on the Chris Carson for Kenyon Drake trade, Drew and I were talking about Kenyon Drake for Austin Eckler. And it finally happened week 9. Drew ended up trading Austin Eckler and Cooper Kupp Austin Eckler, who was hurt at the time, and a 2021 first rounder, Brennan's first rounder. For Kenyon Drake, Tyler Lockett, a 2021 round 3, and I think it might have been his first 6th rounder that he traded for.
It was the start of the 6th round collection.
It was very impressive. But Drew ended up getting 197.6 points out of value from this, primarily from trading the pick for some extra value from some folks. There's sort of just this cascading event from Drew with the Kareem Hunt trade at the beginning, where he got that 600 points of value. This is just part of that train. And then Tyler Lockett, he did all right. He didn't have any monster games after he got traded.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think important to note, probably a big part of why this trade went through was at that point, Tyler Lockett had a couple of monster games.
Yes.
He was kind of trading off between himself and DK Metcalf, but I want to say he had at least one, if not 2, like 40-point games at that point in the season. And after that, just nothing. Just
didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
Which was
so you timed that one perfect.
Perfect value for me. And then Austin Eckler and Cooper Kupp both ended up getting quite a bit. I ended up getting 127.9 points of value. I think that if Eckler had come back the couple weeks earlier that they thought he was going to, I would have had a better chance of getting a win in this column here. But overall, I'm pretty excited. Eckler's going to be absolute keeper for me. Got a 2021 first round pick. Cooper Kupp is on the border of being a keeper for me. I'm not committing to cutting him yet.
Yeah, I mean, with Matthew Stafford coming in,
yeah,
I think, looking at this trade going into next season, for me, Austin Eckler, I think, is the only guy that really looks like a keeper for sure. But a hell of a keeper at that. I mean, with Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense, I think Eckler is going to have a monster season. Assuming health, I really do think he could be a top 5 running back. Zack knows, obviously, I've been trying to grab his ear several times about getting Austin Eckler on my squad. Have not been successful so far. There's still a little bit of time left. But yeah, I think, the fact that you got Austin Eckler and a first rounder, don't know exactly what pick that is, but definitely.
That's the 5th pick.
Yeah.
It's Brennan's 5th.
Definitely going into next season, you're a clear winner of this trade.
Yeah. So this next trade then is kind of also what happened in the past versus going into the future trade. Trade 28 between John and Brennan. This is one of many trades between John and Brennan last season, usually involving some sort of quarterback. But this one was the Aaron Rodgers and Kenny Galladay trade with a 2021 round 2 to Brennan, where Brennan sent John back Russell Wilson, who at the time was the clear MVP.
Yes.
And then pretty much immediately after getting traded, Aaron Rodgers became the very obvious MVP on the season.
Yeah, it was, at that point last season, I knew I had a very good shot at the title. And at that point, I just, I believe 1 week earlier acquired Aaron Rodgers from Sam. In that very next week, the Packers got stomped by the Bucs, and I freaked out because I have Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers. And if they have performances like that, that very well could lead to me having a catastrophic end of the season. So it was kind of a combination of wanting to move at least one of my Packers, and then also really taking that next step to be like, okay, I know my team's a title contender. At the moment, I thought that trade won me the season. I was like, I just acquired the MVP. The quarterback was really the only inconsistency for my team up to that point because I did not keep a quarterback. I believe I started with Cam Newton.
You did start with Cam Newton.
I am very proud of the fact that I was able to work from Cam Newton all the way up to Russell Wilson.
It's very impressive.
But yeah, I mean, really, this was the trade that undid my season and undid my title hopes, because if I had stuck with Aaron Rodgers, I do believe I might have won the championship. I don't know exactly how the math checks out there. The one positive for me, I would say, if you can say is a positive, I did get rid of Kenny Galladay, who went on to have literally 0 points after I traded him because he got injured. So
So I think that was, and I think you do have some value. I think you still have this pick as well. So not complete loss. Obviously, Russell Wilson is a keeper level quarterback talent. Knowing your strategy, not sure if that is what's going to happen or not. Obviously, don't need to reveal that, but Russell Wilson definitely has value. And quite frankly, what I'm very interested to see is how Brennan handles the situation moving forward.
Yes.
Because it's coming up in a little bit, but I'm just going to hop ahead and flag it for later, that there is a trade 42 with Noel, where Brennan actually sent the other first round pick that he had, his only first round pick, plus Odell, to Noel for Dak Prescott, who was injured at the time. So now Brennan has Rodgers and Prescott, and also traded a first round pick to get Dak Prescott on his team. So it's going to be an interesting situation for Brennan when it comes down to selecting keepers.
Yeah, I mean, you got to feel like with the capital that he gave up, he's locked into Dak Prescott. But, you know, if Aaron Rodgers does return to the Packers, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to put up about the same, if not better numbers than Dak Prescott going into next season. You know, I think if I have both those players on my team, I'm picking Dak, just because his potential when he's healthy is sky high. With the weapons that he has around himself, he's got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper,
Michael
Gallup, three outstanding wide receivers. And there were several games in previous seasons where he threw for what felt like 1 billion yards and got like 40 or 50 fantasy points. So it is unfortunate, though. It is kind of a question mark why he chose to make that move, because at that point in the season, Rodgers was going off. So I don't know if he had the inside scoop on the whole Rodgers situation this offseason, knew that it was going to be kind of sketchy and wanted to start moving away from him or what. But all eyes will definitely be on Brennan to see if he's able to move one of those guys or if one of them is just getting kicked down to the draft board.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who gets one of them. All right, so last trade we want to chat about here is trade 36, which I think actually has quite a bit of importance for some keeper spot here, which is Tony trading away Terry McLaurin, and as well as a 2021 round 5 and round 2 to Josh for a 2021 round 1 and a round 4 from Josh there. So Tony just got those picks. He got zero value in 2020. So by the methodology here, Josh won this trade because he got points from Terry McLaurin. But looking forward, Terry McLaurin probably going to be a keeper on Josh's team. You would think he should be, just because the guy's an absolute beast. And considering he's got AJ Brown left on his team, which he's now competing with Julio. DJ Chark, I think, is on his team still, and Chark ended up as receiver 49 on the year.
Yeah, I think for Josh, it's definitely going to be AJ Brown and Terry McLaurin. And scary Terry, man, that guy. It'll be interesting to see what he can do, but not a lot of competition around him competing for targets. And the dude is a PPR machine. We are in 0.5 PPR, but his target numbers and receptions last season were pretty crazy. Obviously, he's still young. I believe he was, this is his third year.
He's 25.
So he's, I think he's just going to keep taking steps forward. So I think in the moment, I really did question what Tony was doing here, because, scary Terry, man, he's a beast. But looking at Tony's wide receivers, I can't fault him, because I'm not keeping Terry over Justin Jefferson or Stephon Diggs, and I don't think he'd be keeping 3 wide receivers. No. So I think, honestly, it was a good move for both teams, because Josh gets another great wide receiver. Tony gets some upgraded picks going into this season, and another first rounder.
Yeah, Tony's ending up throughout all this with 4 first-round picks, including the number 1 overall. So, again, some impressive management. I think Josh had some really good management here too, knowing where his wide receiver core is. The last wrench on this team would be Jerry Jeudy. He traded for Jeudy at some point during the season as well. And it's just going to be interesting to see sort of as we move forward here, which one of these guys is gonna take the 2021 win after it's all said and done. So, but this has just been some trade analysis. I went through and did the math on each one of these trades as it stood in the 2020 impacted season. And of the 48 trades, I will say that Drew won 11 of, I think, his 17, which was the highest number of trade wins on the year. Lucas actually came in second place, winning 9 of his 14 trades.
I think Zack did a great job with this trade analysis. I think the methodology does not check out on this one because well, maybe it's more focused on going into this season, but
yeah,
I just can't find a world in which Lucas won 9 trades.
Lucas won a lot of trades because it would be like 16-0 or 25-30. Like not as many big boy trades from Lucas, but I mean, looking at his team, his big boy that he refused to trade was Saquon, so he didn't get many of those bombastic trades like other people did.
Through 14 trades with having Saquon on his IR the whole season, Lucas has been able to fend off the hounds coming after Saquon Barkley, even into this offseason. I know I have heavily pursued Saquon. Same.
Yeah,
probably everybody in this league has made an offer for Saquon at some point. So, props to Lucas for sticking to his guns. I think he's got a little bit of sunk cost into Saquon that he just can't get over. It'll be interesting to see if Saquon can finally deliver what Lucas has been looking for, because at this point he's had 2 seasons of just nothingness.
Yeah, going to be exciting to watch what happens there. Brennan and Noel both had 6 wins on their season, but Brennan only had 11 trades to Noel's 15, so a little bit better percentage wise, same number of wins. Again, we all know the history of Noel's injuries last year, and pretty much every trade ended up with some form of truncation on the chain there because of injuries.
Yeah, I will say I can't fault Noel for what he did, because he was really trying to battle and stay in it. But hindsight is one, and man, it just kind of seemed like Noel spiraled and made a lot of maybe sloppy moves because he was trying to chase. I know that Brennan is the one referred to as sloppy in this group, but Noel kind of took on that name, and I don't know, man. There's just a lot of those trades that didn't age well, where it maybe in the moment felt good, but he got a little trade happy.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if he's able to recover going into the season. I still think Noel's got a great roster and probably one of the favorites for the title this season, but I don't know. I think going into last season, I was a lot more confident about his team than I am going into this season.
If I were to tell you right now that Noel's 4th pick in this upcoming draft was the 702, would that change your brain a little bit?
Yeah, that's shocking, because going into last season, Noel just had so many guys on his team that it looked like he would be able to, throughout the season or throughout this offseason, trade a lot of them away for some great capital. And the fact that his 4th pick is not until the 7th round, that's pretty scary. I don't know. I think he had to trade a lot more picks away than he wanted to try to keep himself in the title. Obviously, he did kind of wave the white flag late last season, but I don't know. That's pretty shocking, actually.
Well, here's the scary part is that 2022 he has 3 first rounders and 2 second rounders.
Just kicking it down the.
He's kicking it down the line. We'll see what happens here. Let's see. We got John and Tony both getting 4 victories on their trades. Tony trading a little bit less. He only had 7 trades, so 4 out of 7 to John's 4 out of 9. Again, a lot of these trades, the way that this is calculated, the methodology includes each subsequent move. Sometimes they double up a little bit, so it's not always easy to tell.
Yeah, I mean, give one more shout out to Tony. I know he sucked his dick enough today, but I think looking forward to this season and looking back at the trades from last year, Tony really did probably do the best job of improving his situation from going into last season versus going into this season. Again, 4 first rounders, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, the running backs, they're okay, but Justin Herbert as well. I mean, obviously he wasn't acquired in a trade, but picking him up off the waiver wire,
really smart move,
pretty early on, paid off. And so, yeah, Tony, great job, man. I don't know.
And then we get into the sort of lower wins here, with Josh, Sam, and Zack all only getting 2 wins on their trades. Sam and Zack at 7 trades total apiece, and Josh at 5. So a little bit better for Josh. 2 out of 5 is 40% still, but there was a lot of moves there that probably didn't need to get made. I will say I think I did give Brennan a win on one where I traded him Tariq Cohen for Peyton Barber. So I think I gave Brennan an extra win in that column.
Win, but literally had
it's a win. No impact. It's a win, but no impact, and it was a loss then for me. So we'll, that is one thing to keep in mind there. But and then finally in last place here we have Thomas with 1 win out of his 5 trades. So Thomas just as you move forward here, might have to think a little bit harder about these trades. Make sure you get your actual value out of your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Thomas, one of the only 2 teams that had 5 or less trades in the season. I think all of us kind of know, talking with Thomas, he is not one to pull the trigger on trades very quickly. Negotiations often span months. You text Thomas about an idea and he just doesn't reply for like 8 weeks, and then maybe he'll hit you up. But when Thomas did actually pull the trigger, it didn't work out for him. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if he kind of changes up his strategy going into next season and is a little more willing to make moves. Or I guess maybe he just got to do his homework a little better.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. But that's all we got really for this week on the Rathole. I'm really pumped to have this season starting up again. And we'll catch y'all on the flip flop. But until then, see you next time.